sorry, not sure what's happening there. My name is Jax. I'm going to be a naturalist down here at Penguin Beach today. We have Jason behind the camera. Byron was supposed to be joining you, but we've decided to play musical seats this week. And we are down here at Oystercatcher Cove on a very windy Friday afternoon. The wind has changed direction. It's blowing from the southeast today, which is our predominant summer wind. And we are a live show, as you know, so please do send us in your comments and questions by registering on our website or by scanning the QR code. If you're watching on a screen and you have your phone handy, you can scan that code and you'll be able to chat to us, send us in your stories and comments and questions. So it is sunny but chilly down here today with that southeaster. And yesterday we had an unanswered question about surfing, and I had to go ask Byron about this question because I don't know much about surfing, but Byron says yesterday was a perfect day to surf. And yesterday, as I was waiting for the show to start, I had some surfers pull up next to me, and they came and looked at the waves today, and they decided it was not a good day to surf. The southeaster has blown the sea flat. Let's go have a look at the weather forecast before we get started today. So it's supposed to feel like 17 degrees today, but that southeaster is always a cold wind, and so it's definitely brought some chill. And you can see we've got lots of foam on the water today because of the churning motion of the last few days' storm. So that foam is, as I've mentioned before, it's proteins and fats and bits of kelp that have been churned up. Alice, I'm so glad you are ready to waddle. Let's go have a look at our favourite waddling animals down on the seashore. And in fact, the only waddling animals we have here. So we've decided that we want to be at Oystercatcher Cove today. And it's a very different scene from yesterday. These penguins are extremely relaxed down here. They've got nothing to worry about. The tide is going to be about an hour later, so they've still got some time sitting where they are before the weather means, or the sea is going to envelop where they are sitting.
WildEarth and BirdLife SA have come together to bring you 2 days of birding madness, where the sky's the limit and bird is the only word. Ornithologists from BirdLife will join our naturalists live on all our shows. And this will all be broadcast live in the prestigious BirdLife SA Bird Fair of 2022. So get your Twitch on and join WildEarth and BirdLife for our big birding day. Conservation is a daunting word and often sorely reminds us of what we are yet to do. WildEarth is starting small, with a conversation about conservation on 3 key elements: water, the life source of our ecosystem; habitat, the dwelling of all creatures; and of course our keystone species. Your steps in the preservation of the planet are accounted for by watching and joining in the conversation this World Conservation Day with WildEarth.
So here we have a parent penguin and a baby having a snuggle. Fred, so I keep having a look out at the Shire, and I saw Flippy the other day after the show. I thought that they'd fledged, and then I've had a look again and I haven't seen any penguins there. And yesterday when we were at the Shire, there was a penguin having a look in and nobody came out. So I think that they might have left us. I think they might be in the ocean by now. But perhaps we will have a look again tomorrow and see if we can find them. And Jason is showing us some beautiful rock formations today. So these are quartzite rocks, and in between the quartzite rocks and the dune spinach we have a very comfortable dusty. Gemma, so it is quite normal for your parents to cuddle with their chicks. We see that quite a lot. It's really, really cute. They seem to like snuggling up, and they often put their arms, or their flippers rather, they don't have arms, sort of on top of their parents, or the parents will put their flipper on top of the chick, which is really cute to get to see. And all the chicks and parents that were having a nap have now woken up. So there's a very sleepy baby penguin above that adult who is who's preening himself. So you can just see his parent has gotten up to go and sit on top of the rocks, but he's decided that he's going to continue napping. And the other two blues that we're looking at now look like they've just woken up and realized that they have tummies, and that those tummies are a little bit empty. And these penguins have made their homes under the dune spinach. There's not very much soil for them here, so they've bred in between the rocks and under what little soil they've been able to find, which is pretty impressive. And I just want us to take a wider view now and have a look. So if you have a look at the shoreline that we're on, if you watch regularly, you'll know that this is a rocky shore. So we don't have very much sand on this part of the shoreline at all. And just below us, it's in fact very pebbly. But on the opposite side of the shoreline, we have lots of sand. And that's in part due to the wind that we have blowing today. So we have, we're standing on a headland, so we're standing on sort of an outcrop into the ocean. And what happens is that that outcrop deflects the ocean currents, and so the sand that was once on this shoreline has now been washed all the way to the other side of the bay, where you have white sandy beaches. So in South Africa we call it a half-heart bay, and we have many bays like this, so it's rocky on one side and sandy on the other. So all the sand has been moved by the ocean from this side of the bay to the other side. And you can see those beautiful white sandy beaches.
We protect and reconnect nature across southern Africa. We bring countries together to care for wild spaces that stretch beyond borders. We protect and restore biodiversity. We prioritize the people living in these landscapes, enabling them to thrive in harmony with nature. We are restoring tomorrow.
Beaches, I have been trying to read a bit about geology, and I know I keep saying that we're going to do it this week and do it this week, but I really do struggle to find much about the geology of this area, and I'm slowly piecing together what I need to be able to chat to you all about it. We've had lots to chat about. We had that bird skull that we think might be a heart-lip skull. I had a very informed person send me a message and say, when you're looking at bird skulls, you need to make sure you've got the whole skull, because we were only looking at the very top of it. You do have a different bird in frame now, one of our Egyptian geese who's sitting on the rock, trying to walk down the very steep rock cliff, which is quite interesting. You can see just how windy it is by how the feathers of this poor goose is being blown. I do wonder what this goose is looking for here. You're going to have a bit of a shake on the boardwalk in just a moment. We've got some very excited children who are enjoying their South African winter holidays. We're just having a look at that Egyptian goose who's now disappeared, but we do have another Egyptian goose on the other side. Ali, I actually spotted the new Geese family before it was on the show. So I was down at the breakwater and I saw the little family, but it was before the show, and so we couldn't get the geese on. So I have seen them, but not yet. So I'm excited to spend some more time with them. It's very interesting because they don't seem to go down to the left wing like you know, our previous families, the Browns and the Crazy Eights did. So I'm very interested to actually spend more time with them and in this week see what their movements are, or are they going to the left wing earlier on? Oh, were they that side? Okay. So Jason says he actually saw them that side. I didn't get to see them that side. I've seen them that side once. So I'm excited to actually get to know this new family and see how they get along. I think we're going to have several Egyptian geese families now because they have been establishing their mating pairs. And so I think we are in store for many more ducklings, which is very exciting.
In the backdrop of every safari is the most effortless natural music. Their twittering, chirping and singing fills the air with a bit of magic on every drive. WildEarth is celebrating this precious choir with a Bird is the Word fireside chat. Join us and a special guest ornithologist to discuss the big birding event, as well as some of the rare and spectacular birds of WildEarth. Bird is the Word, and it's coming to you live. In preparation for our big birding blowout on the 22nd and 23rd of July, WildEarth is making sure you're geared up and ready to go. Show the world how much you love birding as a proud Twitcher. Find this and more in the WildEarth shop.
In for a closer look at a Dusty who's having a nice scratch. He looks so comfortable in that bed of June spinach. And we've got two more Egyptian geese who've just landed on the shoreline. And they're now being chased away. It's always interesting to watch how territorial they are. I do wonder if that other goose is going to come back. You can see the geese against the Kuckelberg mountain range there. And it looks like they have gotten the message and they're heading very far out. Absolutely no idea. I know that geology is really the study of rocks and how the earth was formed, so I don't know if the study of sand actually falls within that, but we are going to be speaking about all of this on the show this week, so I think that that's a really cool unanswered question that I'm going to push over to tomorrow, and we can talk a bit more about sand, because we do have very interesting sands, very interesting soil in this area. So the area that we're in is predominantly sandstone and quartzite. And so the sand around here and the soil around here is actually very nutrient poor, which I find very interesting. What I do have for you today, since you've brought up sand, is some sandstone. Because the sandstone is the predominant rock, so we've got sandstone and quartzite, and I did pick up some sandstone in the parking lot to show you this morning. And so the fynbos that we have growing here is sandstone fynbos. They enjoy the sandstone soils, and apparently it's a very nice soil because the Kuckelberg is known as the jewel of the fynbos kingdom because of the diversity. So here we have a piece of sandstone, which is a sedimentary rock. So it's bits of other rock that have been pushed together to form sandstone. And the sandstone is, like I said, when it erodes, very nutrient poor. So it doesn't have lots of nitrogen and lots of phosphorus, which then causes the plants to not have very big leaves. And if you have a look, this is some blombos. I'm just going to hold it like that, and Jason's got to tell me if that is viewable. You see that? Is it better with the shade? So they all fynbos, sorry, I can't find my words today. All fynbos has very small leaves, and that is an adaptation to not having very much phosphorus or nitrogen around to have big luscious leaves. I think it also helps with the windy conditions here. I think very sensitive luscious leaves would be torn apart. So the stone that we have, when it weathers down, creates the soils that we have. And because the soil is nutrient poor, we have these very fine, small leaves.
WildEarth have really inspired me to return to South Africa after having followed so many beautiful characters. This Ticket to Dream has given me a great opportunity to meet the WildEarth team, which I thank. They're all amazing. I love all of the characters, but I do have a particular passion for leopards. It's a dream, and as I said before, I just keep on pinching myself. Am I really here?
Hi, I am David. I come to you live from the Mana Triangle, all the way from Kenya.
This is not a postcard. This is real sunrise in the beautiful Masai Mara.
So we had a question come through, and unfortunately I didn't get to hear it, so I'm just going to ask Nadine, our director, to repeat it again. Leslie, so that's a question I also don't have the answer to. I'm not entirely sure. When you say a glow, is it sort of the reflection that you're seeing off the rocks as you move it? Because I'm looking at this rock that I'm looking at now, the rock that I picked up, and it does, there's bits of it that are, what's the right word, reflecting, I guess, in the sun, but I'm not entirely sure. I think that that's often, it's small minerals, it's reflection of minerals in the stone itself. So some stones, this is not a natural stone, but the stone on my finger is labradite, and that has a natural glow where that naturally reflects even if there's no sunlight. But this stone is reflecting in the sunlight, and I think it must be some sort of mineral, but I'm not entirely sure. So definitely another unanswered question for tomorrow. So we're definitely going to do a very rocky show tomorrow. I was thinking tomorrow maybe we do rocks and dussies. But I would say it's minerals. My first guess would be minerals in the rock that we see the light hitting. I've never actually noticed that before, so thank you. So on the seashore we have quartzite rocks, and sandstone wind, it is metamorphosized. So if it is exposed to lots of pressure, lots of heat, becomes quartzite. And I think that this headland must have been a sandstone headland, and the sandstone was eroded away because it's much more easily eroded than the hardy quartzite and metamorphic rocks. And I really love the rock formations here of this quartzite. They're very rough and rugged. And we've got the penguins sitting in front of us. And we know that they can sit on any sort of rock. They seem to enjoy sitting on top of the very high rocks at times. All these penguins have chosen a very flat section. So that's an interesting question. I'd say sandstone is for human use. Sandstone is a very beautiful stone, and so often you'll find in old homes in South Africa, a lot of your old farmhouses are built from sandstone, pure sandstone blocks, which is really impressive. It's very beautiful. You know, in terms of sandstone for soil, when it's eroded down to soil, it's very nutrient poor. So it's probably great if you're hoping to have a natural fynbos garden, but not great for many other uses. I can't say, I don't know if I'm thinking of sand quarries where they mine sand to be able to create for building materials. I'm not sure if sandstone is one that is often used, but I'll have to go and have a look at that. I know limestone quarries were very common, and I think still are fairly common throughout South Africa. But you can mold sandstone quite well. So if you go to the Free State in South Africa, which has lots of sandstone formations, you'll often find people will take sandstone and they'll mold it into candle holders. So they'll sort of erode away, where you can put a tea light candle in it. Sandstone is also, because it's easily eroded, often forms cave formations, and so in South Africa, a lot of your sandstone formations were actually used by early man for shelter. So a lot of your caves, particularly in like the Drakensberg, and even I guess in this area, Clipper Cave is partially sandstone, and so wind and water would erode away at these caves, and then people would use that as a shelter. And so many of the places where you have sand paintings, where early people would paint sort of stories and beliefs and experiences, would often be on sandstone caves. So let me know if you are happy with that answer. Those are the uses that I can think of for sandstone. I wouldn't say that they're particularly useful for sandstone is particularly useful for any animals.
Here on WildEarth, we love it when you interact with our guides while they are live. In order to do this, you must head over to wildearth.tv/questions and submit your questions, comments, and suggestions. Simple as that. And to make it even simpler, from time to time, you will see a QR code on your screen. Open your camera phone and scan this code, and it will take you straight to where you need to be. We look forward to answering your questions on this channel. The Masai Mara in Kenya, a remote landscape where wilderness reigns. Its inspirational beauty captivates the hearts of many around the world. This year, from August, WildEarth is leading a number of unique expeditions to follow Africa's greatest wildebeest migration here in the Masai Mara. And now, the remaining places have been discounted by 20%. Head over to our website to find out.
So I was just saying, here we have quartzite, and at Boulders Beach, our other land colony, there is granite. I think granite is a lot more coarse on your feet, so I think if I was a penguin, I'd much rather live here, where I had nice smooth rocks to walk out on. And Jason is looking at a molting individual. who is very uncomfortable on the seashore. And this is weirdly an adult who's actually, is it an adult molting? Looks like it. Yeah, this is an adult molting. A bit of a strange time of year. They usually molt between November and January, so he does look okay. Sometimes they undergo an arrested molt, so then they get stuck molting, which is not great for them, but this penguin looks fairly fine, and Gavin, our penguin hero, will certainly be keeping an eye on him. So the main molting period for adult penguins is between January and December. Or, I suppose, no, I'm wrong. So it's November and sort of January, February, March. It starts in November and then pushes through to March as the main season, but some birds will molt outside of season. So penguins don't have the same sort of sleep patterns that we would have, and I think I've tried to look this up before and see how many hours penguins would need to sleep, and I wasn't able to come up with an exact number. Far less than what we do, certainly, because they sleep in very short bouts, so they'll only take small naps instead of having, let's say, 10 to 12 hours worth of sleep every day. So I think most animals actually have, or most sea animals have a lot less sleep than what we do, because they don't sleep deeply out at sea and they don't sleep too deeply on land because of predators. So I have tried to look that up, and I haven't been able to find sort of an optimal amount of hours that penguins would need, and it would be hard to measure because they don't sleep for very long bouts. But that is a very good question, and I will have a look again to see if there is anything new, anything else that I can find. So we're looking at the nest again, where we've got the two blues and an adult penguin. And we've just taken a wider view. We've got some people walking by. So we're just having a look at the overall view of Oystercatcher Cove. Nadia, so this is a very good time to do the rocky shores because we've just had full moon, but it's difficult to do the rocky shores when the sea is a bit stormy. So we are going to try and hopefully have a rocky shore soon, or rocky shore show soon. I really can't find my words today, goodness. I think as soon as the weather calms a little, then we will try to do that for you. I stayed up late last night, which is why I think I can't find my words, but I stayed up late so that I could watch an orca webinar, which was at 10 o'clock South African time. My usual bedtime is 8 o'clock, so I think that's why my words are so mumbled. I did learn some interesting things about orcas though, so that was definitely worth staying up for. We've got some very smart black and white penguins on the seashore here. There's no juveniles in that bit. It's very normal to have some juvenile penguins who are about a year or two old molting at this time of year, because this is likely when they fledged. But more coherently, the adults start their molt in sort of November, and then they peak in January. And in March we start to see that molt end, and we start to see the start of the breeding season. And now we're sort of at an interesting part in the breeding season, because we're at a part where a lot of the chicks are fledged, and there are some relays. So I did see some fluffy chicks this morning, which is likely eggs that failed that were relayed quite soon. Hopefully we're going to have a next batch of chicks coming out very soon. not sure how they don't fall over. I think sometimes they do. I would say, I know that if your center of gravity is a little bit further back, like I'm thinking of me as a person, if I'm in the water or on a boat, the further back you stand, the further back your center of gravity is, the more you're likely to not be toppled over by something. So I would say that it's because if you look at them, penguins, yes, when they walk, they sometimes lean forward, but sometimes when they're standing on that seashore, they're leaning back, sort of on the back of their heels, if you will, which might help them not get knocked over. I think they're very often being knocked over by the waves and then just resettling or letting the wave take them out. But if you're looking at some of those seated penguins, I'm looking at the ones towards the right, you know, they're right on the back of their center of gravity, which is a very stable way to sit. Let's see if a wave does knock them, and we can have a good look at that.
We want to make it even easier for you to interact with our guides whilst watching WildEarth. When you see a QR code like this pop up on your screen, then open your phone camera, point it at the code, and you will be taken directly to our question page. Simple as that. Then you can let us know what you want to see, ask questions, and much more.
I've had it before where I've been walking and a waterbuck's jumped out of the grass. It's quite a frightening experience.
WildEarth, it's in your nature.
So Jason has found us a really pretty crowned cormorant who's just come back from fishing, and they tend to love to fish at low tide. We often see that here. And this cormorant is now airing its wings out, so it needs to dry its wings because their wings are not fully waterproof, and so if they get too much water in their wings, it can make them start to sink, make their bodies very heavy. They also air their wings out like that in an effort to aid digestion. So by being in the warm sun, they hope that it'll aid digestion of the fish that they caught. And they really like to eat the clipfish in between the rocks. And you can just see his little kefi, his little crest on his head, which is why they're called the crowned cormorant. Early sailors might have referred to them as a shag because they have that crest. And cormorants are able to drop their body temperature quite a lot when they are in the water. And drop their temperature about 6 degrees. So it is nice for them to be in the sun after a foraging bout, just to warm their bones. And there is the second crowned cormorant. And I do wonder sometimes if they do feed as a pair, because you'll often see 2 crowned cormorants around. And Jason has very keenly found that. As I was wondering about it, he went to go and have a look. Great minds think alike in this case. I can't help but wonder, because we're seeing that fairly often here, if they do feed in their pairs, they would be at the end of their breeding season now. So if there are any chicks left, the chicks would be large enough to be left unattended. You can see them both on the rocks now, very close together. And I actually just wanted to go have oh, it's just disappeared behind us. Then we've got a very fluffy penguin chick, but he's just gone into the nest. So we'll see if he maybe comes out again, just to show you the chicks at different stages of development. The chicks on the shoreline are blues, and so they will be fledging very soon. But we'll just see, maybe this chick will come out again, and then we'll do a quick move towards it. So if there are young chicks at this time, I think it's eggs that failed, that the parents relayed. Looks like Jason is going to be able to get us a view of this chick. So there's the lovely informative signboards of Stony Point, where you can come read about the birds. See if we can get a nice look. You can only see a part of the fluff ball. It's now hidden behind the dune spinach. So dussies are found not only in South Africa, it's certainly found throughout Southern Africa, and if you go to sort of Central Africa, not entirely sure about North Africa. I think historically they were found in North Africa. I'm not sure if that is still the case. But certainly very plentiful in Southern Africa. I think if you go further towards Central Africa, you're going to see a lot more of the tree dussie. And there you can see the chick really beautifully now. So that chick is probably about 2 to 3 weeks old. I don't think this is the parent that is going to feed the chick. I think this is the babysitter who's making sure the chick is protected. Penguin Beaches, we have a rock kestrel. Very exciting. I've never had a rock kestrel with you on the show before. So we're just going to see if we can get him into frame. So I just heard him squealing. So let's see what he might try to hunt. The kestrels love to feed on little rodents. I think that they also love little birds. You can see he's hovering, so he's looking for food. Things are going to get a little bit shaky. We've just got some people walking by. So I'm glad that you guys are excited to add the rock kestrel. I know that they have been seen, I don't know if it was by Devon or by Byron. I know that they have had sightings, but if you've joined recently like me, you've not seen a rock kestrel. I must say it's an amazing thing because it's very loud down here today. We've got lots of wind and the sea's very loud, and to be able to listen to you guys, I've got the director in my ear, so that kind of plugs your ear a little bit, and it's amazing how your head sort of unconsciously recognizes that there's something that's changed, because there was a sound that I hadn't recognized or had picked up. There was a change in sound that I picked up on, which is how I knew that there was a kestrel. So we're just going to re-establish the tripod quickly to see if we can get you another view of the kestrel. But in nature, so often that's how I spot things, is you just pick up that there's something different. There's a call, something's making a noise, something's rustling in the bushes, something looks like strange, you know, there's something strange in the trees, or you can see that you know, for example, the arum lilies the other day that were eaten by the porcupine, you could see that was a little bit funny. The kestrel is now directly above us. I don't know if we'll be able to get him. There he is. And now I've completely lost him. There's seagulls who've just joined in on the party. I've lost the kestrel. There were seagulls around. I wanted the seagulls chase the kestrel away. But very cool that we did get a couple of views of that rock kestrel. Something very exciting, very different. And they are very common in areas where the cliffs are a bit higher. I think they've got ample breeding ground, or you have more cliff faces.
In the backdrop of every safari is the most effortless natural music. Their twittering, chirping and singing fills the air with a bit of magic on every drive. WildEarth is celebrating this precious choir with a Bird is the Word fireside chat. Join us and a special guest ornithologist to discuss the big birding event, as well as some of the rare and spectacular birds of WildEarth. Bird is the Word, and it's coming to you live. In preparation for our big birding blowout on the 22nd and 23rd of July, WildEarth is making sure you're geared up and ready to go. Show the world how much you love birding as a proud Twitcher. Find this and more in the WildEarth shop.
To me is where the kestrel was. As soon as the kestrel started hovering, several seagulls started to do the same, and we're watching the penguin at the moment. So Ellie, the rock kestrels have quite a varied diet. So they like rodents a lot, so they love to eat things like your striped mouse, your field mouse. They also eat small birds. I think that they would certainly try to take agamas. I think that wouldn't be out of their scope because they are a predatory seabird. I'm not sure if they might take a dussie. I feel like the dussies are just a bit big, but I could be wrong on that. Because wherever you have lots of dussies, you do have a lot of rock kestrels. So perhaps they're stronger than what I think they are. But I'd say small birds and rodents would make up a large proportion of their diet. Don't know if they would be able to take a penguin chick. I don't know if a penguin chick in the open would be small enough. But there's certainly something in that area, and while one kelp gull is still sitting sentinel, the other is actually walking around in the colony. I'm curious as to what was there, but it's out of our view, so we can't see exactly what the gull is doing. We've got about 15 minutes left before You're all going to pay a visit to Juma and Amakala and the watering holes, of course. We have so many different places that you can watch wildlife now. It's very cool. It sounds like Cedric has heard some alarm calling already, so he's already out and about looking for what he might be able to show you today. And so he's going to take you on an adventure with him to see if he can find some leopard. Tess is hoping to spend her afternoon with the hyenas and see what they get up to. Lauren and Darby are going to continue exploring Amakala and showing you all the different animals that we get in the Cape region and all the different sites. And Rolf and Dylan are going to be doing what they do best. Dylan will be taking some more photos. And Rolf is going to sit and wait to see what comes to him, which is one of the best ways to watch wildlife. I must admit, I'm awful at that. I should do it a lot more. Sometimes I really get into it, but I do like to follow rather than sit and wait, even though it's one of the best ways to actually have fantastic sightings. We've moved over to have a look on the other side of the boardwalk at some Egyptian geese who are meandering and eating some June spinach. I wonder how large each goose's territory is here. I think the territories definitely depend on food availability. I can't imagine each territory is that large. So we have a goose on our side of the boardwalk, and then we have two on the other side. Two up there. Just confused a penguin with a goose. I wonder if the boardwalk might be a line, like a separating line. I wonder how they define whose territory is whose.
WildEarth Explorers is a club aimed at people who love nature and care about the earth we live on. First and foremost, if you join our club, you can watch WildEarth completely ad-free. In addition, we have great monthly prize draws, a weekly newsletter, and access to some great extra content such as fireside chats, AMAs, and hangouts. For a small monthly subscription, you can join other like-minded viewers and be part of the club. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. After an exhilarating day of live safaris,
what better than to cozy up around a fire?
Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and let our guides enchant you with their stories and exciting animal encounters. And of course, stand a chance to join in the chat and get your questions answered in real time. So what are you waiting for? Join the Explorers Club today and start to enjoy our special evenings around the fire. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Jason has found some discarded kelp to show you what's been happening. So with all the stormy weather, the kelp has been dislodged and now ended up on the seashore. I was just saying the largest drop in temperature I've ever seen overnight was about 10 degrees, and that was because the wind changed from a west to a southeast, much like it's done over the last couple of days. And it changed overnight and it started to blow very, very strong, which then resulted in a massive drop in water temperature. It's going to take quite a long time for the water to become clean again so that you're able to see. And the milkiness of the water is the sediment that's been kicked up from the bottom of the ocean. So there's some sea sand, that's been kicked up, and little bits of sediment just tend to stay in the water column. And I think for our last 10 minutes we should go and have a look at those penguin chicks that we were looking at earlier. The family of 3, and then there's one chick whose mom or dad is sitting on a rock above them. young chick is awake. Lover, it's so good to hear from you. I didn't quite catch that question. It was something about dissecting, I believe. So dark moon lover, that's a cool question, and I don't know why I've been both speaking about it and thinking about it a lot recently. So I have never led a dissection, so I'm not a biologist by training, but I've been very lucky to be involved in several necropsies. They're very sad, but I also find them so interesting, the things that we can learn. So I've been involved in some great white shark necropsies, which has been very informative. So I've taken photos. I didn't do any measurements there, but I did get to help expose the vertebral column. And shark skin is really tough to actually get through, so you use several different knives, and you've got someone whose main job is just sharpening the knives, because as you try to get through the shark's skin, the knives become really blunt. So I've done great white sharks. The first ever necropsy, oceanic necropsy I attended, was a sickle-finned devil ray that washed up in the area, which was very unusual, but there was a strong El Nino, which caused all the oceans to get a bit funny, all the ocean currents here. I've done several humpback whale necropsies. I've been involved in several humpback whale necropsies, which is very sad for me, but always very interesting. And I always see it as a way to not give back, but a way to actually honor a life lost is to use the information that we get from those necropsies to better inform conservation and policy. I've seen a striped dolphin necropsy, which is very cool, and then a soup fin shark necropsy. I've never seen a penguin or seal necropsy. I'd love to learn more about it, because I think it would be super interesting. Because you learn so much about how the body is adapted to the environment by being involved in necropsies. You see, what was in the animal's stomach, which I also find super interesting. With some of the shark necropsies, we found stingray barbs in the teeth and a baby dolphin in the stomach of a shark. So it's so fascinating. It's very sad, but it's also a very important thing that we look at why animals are washing up, so that we can be on top of it if it is disease or if there are reasons for it. So Nadine, our amazing director, is saying it's very interesting to her. So baby dolphins are born at a size of about 1 meter, and I think the shark very opportunistically was able to get this baby dolphin. You find some very interesting things in necropsies. It really is so fascinating, and often down by the beach, if there is a necropsy happening, biologists are happy to talk about what they're doing.
I started watching WildEarth at the beginning of COVID, and I haven't looked back since. I've seen all of the leopards I wanted to see in Marives. He's been so playful and such a character. I had to remind myself to breathe at some points. To see those 2 cubs made me very emotional. It's just been brilliant. It's just blown me away.
So I must be honest, I have an affliction for baby animals. of all species. I find watching little animals test boundaries and grow up to be my absolute favorite. Particularly when they get to the stage, because when most animals are born, they're very boring, like human babies. They're kind of like a shriveled up raisin. They don't do very much. But I love it when all animals get to that stage where they start, pushing boundaries. And so for the little penguins, that's when they start to leave the nest a little bit. When they start to figure out their bodies, they start to figure out their waddling. So for me, watching that, that stage where they're really figuring out how to be a baby animal, I think is really special. With birds, the whole from egg to fledging process is amazing. I really love watching that in birds, and I first did that really in the Seychelles with tropic birds and white terns, and that was... It was a life-changing experience to be able to watch and record and monitor, several different nests from just before they laid to when the baby birds had left. I must say with the baby penguins, if you read the books about them, they say baby penguins get really cheeky at the stage, exactly what we're looking at now, the two little guys that Jason has for us. I've not seen baby penguins be overly cheeky with their parents apart from when they're feeding. And it was with Jason where we had that amazing day where the baby penguin almost like climbs on the back of its sibling or the parent to try and get fish. And I think that's one of the cutest behaviors that penguins do. So apparently they're supposed to get aggressive at this time, but it's not something I've seen yet. And the one little penguin there looks much taller than the other, but I think he's sitting on higher ground. So I'm so glad that the show was nice and informative. I'm so glad you enjoyed it, Kendra. I'm going to be with you for the next week. So Byron is going to Wilderness. Last time I got Byron in trouble because I had to tell Byron's dad that Byron was going to the bush. But Byron is now going to go spend a week with his dad. So very excited that he's got some family time. So for the next week, you have Jason and myself down here at Stony Point. So we're going to be doing geology. We'll talk a bit more about the Fynbos biome. We've got some flowers in store. We're going to look at those rocks and lots of unanswered questions to share with you all tomorrow. So please do stay with us, watch on your Saturday. Thank you on behalf of Jason and I for watching, for sending in those questions and those comments. I hope that you enjoyed that rock kestrel. That was very exciting. And let's spend our last few moments enjoying the sights and very windy sounds down here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.